Welcome to the Wealthy Actor Podcast. I'm Valerie Hubbard, an industry veteran with 25 years dedicated to helping actors navigate the business side of their craft.
And I'm James Hallett, a fellow lifelong actor and coach, joining Valerie on this journey.
Here on The Wealthy Actor, we're diving deep into the stories and insights of actors from all walks of life.
We'll be unraveling the threads of success, failures, and everything in between.
So if you're ready to embark on a journey beyond the footlights, join us as we sit down with fascinating actors, industry experts, and thought leaders to uncover the secrets of becoming a truly wealthy actor. I'm Valerie Hubbard.
And I'm James Hallett.
And this is the Wealthy Actor Podcast, where the art of acting meets the business of building a truly prosperous life in the spotlight. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Wealthy Actor Podcast. My name is Valerie Hubbard, and I'm joined by
James Hallett. Hey, everybody. Hey, Val.
Hi. Happy summer.
Oh, yes. Hot already.
It's so hot. I just went on a picnic with my husband. Okay, we're going to introduce our fabulous guest today. We've been trying to get her on here forever. Her name is Kathryn Hollis Peter. Let me read you a little bit about her. Kathryn Hollis Peters is a Los Angeles-based producer and founder of Female-Funded Films, championing bold, independent voices in cinema. She works closely with writers and filmmakers to develop and produce story-driven, commercially viable projects built on strategy, vision, and results. Female-funded Films slate includes over a dozen features, including the Minnesota Project, a 5-film initiative. A former entrepreneur, Kathryn brings creative insight and strategic vision to every production with focus on empowering underrepresented voices. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you, Valerie. My goodness, did you write that?
No, I didn't, but it's super fancy.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Kathryn, yes, we're so happy to have you. I mean, there's so many things to talk about. So I think the first thing that we really want to know about is for you guys that don't know, Kathryn was a client. Well, she still is, but she came and hired me for her acting career. And that was really taking off. And, and you started later, and then this producing thing happened. So tell us a little bit about how that happened and the process.
So I started actually as a child model actor in Atlanta, Georgia, before Atlanta was a thing. And then I left the industry. I pursued my love of business and fashion. I was a fashion designer for many years in New York City, and then ended up back in LA. And I just still had it in my blood. I was not finished with the entertainment industry. So I came back in later in life, post-COVID, right around COVID, actually. Mm-hmm. And I hired Miss Valerie Hubbard because I had heard that you can take people from not just point A to point B, from point A to point Z, and do it in a very methodical manner and in a way that is the fastest way to get where you want to go. So I realized at that time, I loved acting. I considered it playing in the sandbox, and I needed that joy in my life. But also there was this other element that was missing, and that was the business side of what I love to do. So I wanted to combine the two, do as much as I could with the acting, and then I just kind of fell into the producing. But you don't fall into things. We all know you set the stage, you create the situation where when opportunity knocks, you can answer.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Just listening to the list of things that Valerie named off, things that like we could spend an hour on each one of those elements. What struck me was Minnesota Project. What is the Minnesota Project? What does that mean?
Oh, James, you hit the nail on the head. Okay, so we have to run our acting career, our life. We have to run things like a business. And that's where we're going to get what we want, being very clear on what is the objective, right, at the end of the day. And I knew that I wanted to produce. I started to get this intuitive hit that one film wasn't going to be enough, that I needed a slate. And at this point, I hadn't produced anything. So you have to understand, this was like just literally listening to my internal gut. And I started to figure out, where should I base myself to get the most bang for my buck and to be able to mitigate risk for investors, create projects in a space that I would love, that I thought could draw opportunity, again, had great tax incentives, all of those things. And so we set out to find projects that we could actually set in what's called the Iron Range in Minnesota, because it has up to a 60% tax incentive. So don't all run to Minnesota, because it's a little bit tricky of how you get to that percentage. But that's kind of where it started from. And then all of a sudden, because we set our intention, things started falling in my lap. So a project fell in my lap that was actually based in Minnesota, that was with a Norwegian director who we know and love from Actors Fast Track. So this beautiful Norwegian director, Camilla Rowan, she said, "Hey, I have this great project, and let's do it." So Where the Water Runs Deep became the first project in what I called the Minnesota Project, which is this initiative of multiple films, which is basically a slate of films to be set in Minnesota. And we now have 5+1, so 6. It's going to be a rinse and repeat, so that every year we continue to just do the same thing over and over again, because why invent the wheel? Get these films funded, because it's just as easy to raise 20 million as it is 20,000. And so that was kind of where I went with it. And we got to pitch the Minnesota project in Cannes. So that was super exciting. As a matter of fact, so exciting that somebody yesterday was on a panel and came off, it was somebody I really wanted to talk to, and he came off the panel afterwards. We know how hard that is to get to people. And he said, "I saw your pitch in Cannes." And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is the reverse of what's supposed to happen. But when things start to fall into place, and the Minnesota project did, you push it forward.
So many things that you said that are exciting and wonderful. As a business person, and Valerie and I both trained with the same business coach, and one of the things that she said was, you can sell a client, a $97 package, and you can sell a client a $10,000 package, and it's often the same amount of work, right? It's often the same amount of work. And so there's this question of like, well, and you said it really well. It's as easy to raise 20 million as 20,000. And it's so true. Are we playing in the little sandbox? Or are we going to play in the big sandbox?
I love big sandbox, because I love building giant sandcastles, right? And I love doing it with multiple people. And this collaborative effort it's just so important to being a producer. But you're right, James. It is, you don't want to have to keep raising capital. That's kind of the grind. But once you find your partnerships and you can do it once, then you just keep doing it. And if you are able to do a good job, exceed expectation, those exact people will come back and want to support you again.
And that's what our guest on the mastermind the other day was saying. It's like the same thing. You get your people, and then those are your peeps.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so great. I love that. It's like someone said to me once, "Well, I just want a co-star." I'm like, "Really? What do you really want?" And they were like, "Oh, I want a series regular." I'm like, "Right. Don't go just play for the co-star. Play for the series regular. Go for what the thing is that you want."
I love that you say that, Valerie, because I have to constantly remind myself to play
Yeah.
to reevaluate my game. Where am I at? To make sure I'm playing a big enough game.
Yeah.
That's, I think, where we don't do ourselves justice, because we go, "Oh, this is good enough."
Yeah.
But you know what? If it was just good enough, I'd still be working on that one film, trying to get it done, instead of a slate of 12.
Yeah. Again, and I think that it's really easy to get lost in the minutia, like sometimes like the liability of the playing big is sometimes we miss stuff or we overlook stuff. So we learned that lesson too.
Well, and again, your team is so important, building your team in a methodical way. And you say this over and over, Valerie, that without that, I could not be doing what I'm doing. And I have been very successful in getting people that are like-hearted We may not actually be like-minded, okay? Because I don't mind somebody having a different perspective, but we better be like-hearted, because that's where you run into problems, is if somebody has different goals, objectives, and maybe they don't even think the same way because their values are different, then it's not going to work. So I'm very clear on creating a team around me that I can, support, and they can support me, and we can move mountains
Right.
together.
That is so beautiful. Maybe it's just me, but I've never heard that phrase before. And you said it in such a lovely way, and I really get it, and I really hear you. It's also, if you're like-hearted with people, there's a lot of stuff you can forgive. There's a lot of stuff you can let go of if you are truly focused on the same ingredients of life, right? The same values of life. And
That's
it's
so true. It's so true. And you know what? I love to say to people, you do you, and I'm going to do me. And
Mhm.
remind myself of that, because we don't want to be the same people. We just want to be going towards the same place and coming from the same place. And
Mhm.
that gives us that commonality. I didn't coin that word. It's been used a little bit in, some of my partnerships, and I just embraced it. It's very
Yeah.
exciting though. I mean, I think every single project, I look at the people. I am very methodical with how to create, all of the deadlines, all of the deliverables, all of those things. But let's face it, we want to also have fun while we're doing this. I mean, I'm 62. I don't need to be I'm technically retired for all that. I mean, I'm not, I'm just getting started. But when you move out of the space of having to do it and move into the space of getting to do it, it changes
Yes.
everything.
That's so important what you just said. Getting to do it. Like Kelsey, Kelsey Marie Edwards, who is also on our podcast, she shared a video yesterday of Coleman Domingo. And he was saying in this video that, they were like, what was it like to be a struggling actor? He goes, I was never struggling. Right. Because he didn't see it that way. And it's so much what you're saying. It's like, it's what I've been talking about lately, because, what I've noticed in the DMing I've been doing with actors is that they undercut themselves really a lot.
Well,
Right.
sometimes we're afraid of our own greatness. So we
Yeah.
make ourselves play small, and we just have to get out of the way of ourselves. I just want to mention something about Coleman Domingo, because I'm working on Coleman. If you're out there, I need to talk to you. But anyway, he is the nicest person. He has personally greeted me, remembered me. And I have to say that that's also really important as you make your way through Hollywood, to stay grounded and to remember you started somewhere, and
Yeah.
it's not a hard journey unless you make it a hard journey.
Yeah.
It just takes a while. So
Yeah.
we have to remember to really appreciate where we are in the process, be kind to ourselves, and be kind to everyone around us.
Yes.
I think that's so true. And the question of like, who are we as business people, right? That's reflected in everything we do and everybody we speak to. And we carry it with us, and we carry the penalty of treating or being rude or unkind to anyone. The reality is that it's a small world, and people quickly get to know who people are in the industry, and it's a job. I think this goes back to this thing of like, what we do as a job. If you think of like any other job, are you showing up on time? Are you being
Mhm.
kind to people? Are you respectful when people come through with what they've promised? How do you treat someone, who's positioned lower than you?
I
All,
love that
all
you're saying that, James, because I also say it's a job and it's a privilege. Because I
yeah.
get so busy. I do get caught up in the job, and people that work with me will know. I will have one too many. I will have 20 too many things on my plate. And I have to go back to, okay, what's mine to do? That's really important. What's not mine to do? And then understanding everybody's at a different place. So I need to meet them where they are. And I do spiritual retreats to keep myself grounded, because if not, I'm going on, I don't even know how fast I'm going, 200 miles an hour. And I have to remind myself that, we're living this life here, and we need to take care of ourselves and enjoy it.
When you talk about a spiritual retreat, how would you describe what you're looking for in a spiritual retreat, or what does that mean to you?
You know, I love that you asked me this question because I've had many different mentors, business mentors, spiritual mentors, etc., in my life. And I always say that they find me. And I even
Mm,
mean that with Valerie because I was, on the web looking around and then bam, it popped up. And so I'm open and receptive to what I need. I'm really clear on what I'm looking for. But my mentor that was a movie producer, she was an extraordinary women's leader, and her name is Minu Marielle. She has been with me from the beginning, and she was that believe in me person, right? That
mm,
stop me in my tracks and also call me out on my crap and also say, Kathryn, you're better than this. So I look for something where I gain the perspective of where I am in my life and what I'm doing, like the clarity of where I am right now. And then I look for someone who can help take me on the journey to where I'm going, but from a heart space.
mm.
Yeah.
And I love to play the singing bowl. So I always like to get to retreats where that's offered. So I got to help kind of, I'm not going to say co-facilitate, but I really got to be a part of the retreat, which was very exciting for me this past weekend. And I took 6 days off to drive to San Francisco, drive back. I don't do that. Like that's not what I normally do, but I have to remind myself it's time. So when something really big is coming into my life and I felt it, I wanted to be centered and present and grounded and ready. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the timing for me of when I really hunker down and do the work.
Yeah. It's also this thing of like, it takes as much work to go for the small, right? As it does to go for the big. And getting ourselves present, we have to know what we're preparing ourselves for. And that clarity is so critical. Like if we realize that we are preparing ourselves constantly for the small thing or for the failed thing, then that's what we're going to get.
Mhm.
And if we can shape change our mind, work into this that we are that we're holding the vision of going for the big dream, then we actually open the pathway for that big dream to come, which is reflected in what you were saying about the spiritual mentors, right? That when you got clear, they came. Like
Yes.
they arrived when you got clear.
That is so true. And again, it's happened multiple times in my life, and it's happened with the things that are the most important to me are the things that are bigger than just me, right? Like I decided I wanted to create a legacy. I decided that I wanted to do something that could give back. And I realized I couldn't do that with the tools that I had. I needed some refinement. And so I knew that I didn't set the stage to go on this retreat. It popped up at the perfect time and I embraced it. And then I cleared my calendar because I could have said no, right? Sometimes we resist things because I'm very, very, very busy. That's my
Everything always comes when you're very, very, very busy.
Totally. But I want to share with you something. That's what we call our autopilot. When we're living in our autopilot, it's that thing that we do that keeps preventing us from getting that real thing that we want. And so this retreat was about learning what my source mastery is and then living in that. And I love leaving people passionately inspired to be in their greatness. And when
Mhm.
I'm in that space, doing it with producing or acting or just being a good friend, that's when I am really
Mm.
so at peace. And so that's kind of the reminder I needed to be because I am going to just keep getting busier. So I have to figure out a way. I want to share one thing too that a mentor shared with me, and that is it takes in the beginning 10 units of effort to get just 1 unit of measure. Right. So you're
Yeah.
working so hard to get somewhere. And then there will be a place where that shifts, where
Yeah.
it's 1 unit of effort to get 10 units of measure. And then you can really embrace it and you're off to the races and it's
Yeah.
not so much effort. So you also have to remind yourself of where you are. Are you on that learning curve where you're going, it takes a lot of energy? Or are you at that place where you're finally, it's all clicking in and it's making sense? So,
It's so true. It's so true. Like I think about Scott, who's one of our coaches at Actors Fast Track. He does one newsletter, he gets like 3 auditions. It's like he has such a fast manifestation rate because he was at it and he worked and he did all that 10 units of effort, which were a lot, which are big. And that's where most actors will give up.
absolutely. I mean, I would say if you give up, then you didn't really want to do this.
Mm.
Right. Because you can't give up on yourself. You can't give up on what you're. So you also have to say, well, when am I giving up and when am I switching gears? When am I changing my path? So
Yeah,
that's
that's different.
it's different. So if you decide, oh, this isn't working, I'm going to consciously move into a different area, you're not giving up. But if you're like, I just can't do this anymore. Yeah, you don't want to be in that space because that's not serving the world because they don't get to receive you. And it's certainly not serving you. So I'm always very clear on when I'm making a conscious decision to do something.
I want to pick up on the phrase autopilot because it's very potent phrase, especially in a world where we're looking at artificial intelligence and we are literally talking about cars being autopiloted and creating, television pilots on autopilot because it's being written by an AI. And the difference between being on autopilot versus being present.
I just love that you made that distinction because when you're in your autopilot, that is not necessarily a good thing, right? Because you're just doing the same thing over and over. It's what maybe you were born with it. Maybe you got some bad habits. Maybe it's just the easy way for you, but you're not being conscious. You need to be conscious of what it is you want and how you're going to get there. So I always say, be responsible for the consequences of your actions. Pause for a minute and think about what you really want. And that is presence. That is so important. That is not being on autopilot. Autopilot is what you're doing when you're not present, when you're not conscious, when you're just moving as fast as you can. But when you stop and look at the lay of the land and you say, okay, this is where I want to be. How do I get there? And then you collect all the things to get there. I mean, this year I got to become an author, a producer working on projects like Kelsey Grammer's project, a slate of 5 films. I didn't ever question it because that's the other thing about manifestation. You need to know that it's possible for you. And you live life as if you have done everything you need to, and that thing is going to come. I used to say like the checks in the mail because you don't run to see if the person got your letter, but we don't send letters anymore. Like the email is sent, I guess. So, and maybe we need to slow down and send more letters. Maybe that's a way to kind
of. Well, I definitely think there's going to be a backlash to AI just for, I started this whole DMing, James, and what I learned is like, there's a part where you have to take it over personally. No matter how great the AI is, it has to come from your heart especially with me. Because I believe in what I'm doing and I believe I can change actors' lives, right? They're very hesitant when you first reach out to them because they probably bought a lot of crap that didn't work for them.
And I love what you said, Valerie, about when you're writing things, because you do have to be centered. You have to be in a good space.
Yes.
You have to be present. You have to know what the objective is. Do not pop that into ChatGPT and just go write me something when you don't even know what you want it to write you, because it's energy. And people can feel your energy. But if you're in a great space and you write it and maybe need a little help, ChatGPT can do that for you. But I wrote 3 critical letters yesterday to people I had met. And I sat down, I waited till I was in a really good space, got everything quiet because one was to Apple, one was to Reese Witherspoon's company. So, these were big people that I had met. And I was like, okay, I don't want to just write like something that they're going to receive from 1,000 people. I want to really connect with them on a heart level. I keep going back to heart, but there's so much heart that's in everything we do. And so I really have to also remind myself not to write things when I'm frantic or, trying to squeeze it in, because that's really important. That communication can be that door that opens up everything you need.
Right.
You mentioned author, producer, slate of 5 films. Let's start with author.
Yeah.
What are you working on and how's it going and what have you discovered?
Wow. Well, the discovery continues. I've always written. It has been a great privilege of mine to be able to write. And I don't always have enough time in my day to do it. So if I could do anything in the world, I would go to Bali and I would just write. That's what I do. I would write books or screenplays. So this little incredible new, I'm going to call it franchise, called Cupid Fest, is something that has been in the works for a couple of years. And again, one of the amazing people in Valerie Hubbard's Actors Fast Track, Megan Cummings, our worlds came together, and she was in the process of writing a story and that becoming a screenplay. And I just was like, wow, you're really onto something. This is great.
Right.
That then turned into reverse engineering the fact that we needed a short, and how amazing would it be if we had IP? So we created a company called Three Dames with Three Names, with Maggie, her co-writer Jennifer, and myself facilitating the process. And we wrote a novel, a rom-com that is about two sisters of a certain age, bloodied on the battlefield of love, and they escape to Ireland in search of adventure and find out, here's the clincher, it's never too late to fall in love because the heart doesn't know how old it is. Back to heart. So this was, again, just so fun because it was the first thing that we had, that I'd ever had, that was published. And Jennifer's written several novels. I think this was Maggie's first, but now we are opening this up to book clubs, and we are looking for our A-lister. So I was fortunate enough to meet with Linda Gray, who's a very good friend of mine. You youngsters aren't going to know who that is. You know, from that meeting, I was like, okay, who can we get? Now I have a book. I have the story. I can put this in the right hands of people that are connected so we can get our top talent so we can sell this movie. So the book has technically already been optioned for a screenplay and a film.
Yay!
Fantastic. Wow.
So that's the author part. And I'm very excited about continuing on that journey because I love it. It brings me peace and joy and harmony and love.
I love that you saw a problem, that you saw a need and became an opportunity. Like there was a need, you needed IP, and that you transformed it from a problem into an opportunity. You know, how can I do this? Right? How can I make this happen? How can I create this? Which is like worthwhile to just think about taking things that feel like obstacles and turning and transforming them into opportunity. The obstacle becomes an opportunity. Right? Like that's what inventors do. Inventors look at things and they're like, what can I do with this? This is interesting. How can I make this easier? How can I make this better? How can I make this something somebody can, like you are an inventor and you created and invented the answer, which is so.
I mean, we're all inventors, right? We are. We just have to remind ourselves, and we have to be open. And like you said, if it's a problem, I always say there's no to me. There's a not yet. And if it's a good thing, that will be something I should embrace. But I love the journey of the problems because they're challenges, they're obstacles. So it's just like a chess game. You don't just move all the pieces forward. You look at the end result. You want checkmate. So how are you going to get that? And as you move, somebody else is moving, and then you're having to move, and then they're moving. So that it's a dance. And that's really, it is overcoming obstacles, but it's this beautiful dance that you get to go when you are clear on what your objective is. And my objective was, how do we get the film Cupid Fest to the largest audience out there and create a feature film? And that's how we kind of reverse engineered all these pieces.
Perfect.
Wow.
Yes. Perfect. Oh, we have a question.
Ooh, I love questions.
Hi, Queen Kathryn.
I do play one on TV on these verticals, which we should talk about too.
Yeah, we should talk about
That's
verticals.
good. Hi, Queen Kathryn. So great to see you in being interviewed. Love your sandbox analogy and being like-hearted. I have two key questions about logistics. One, what was your biggest hurdle you had to tackle when you focused on being a producer? And two, did that coincide with a system setup?
Yes.
We were just talking about systems this week, Kathryn and I were.
We were, and we have to keep reinventing systems as we keep moving along. So the biggest hurdle that I had and still have, I would say, is discernment. Okay, I should get this branded on my forehead because there's so much that I wanted to do that at first I was like, yes, 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 yes. I would take on everything. And then I had to get really clear that I was almost moving too fast. So I had to grab the reins, pull it back just a tiny bit and say, oh, I better get those systems in place because this is going to get out of control. So I think the systems were key to me being able to deliver consistently and, having a formula that works. Without the systems, you're just kind of willy-nilly all over the place. Those two things were happening as I was growing my business. I didn't have one hurdle. The biggest hurdle was I jumped in the deep end and I was treading water. It was really scary and it was not the easiest thing to do, but I knew that I knew how to swim. And so I was going to figure this out. So I
Mm.
had to have the self-confidence in myself to say,
Mhm.
I can do this, but I need help. Can't do it
Mhm.
alone. So I immediately got people in the right places that could support me. And I also got the systems in place to support where I was. So those
Uh-huh.
two things happened simultaneously. I hope that answers your question.
It was great. That was
Yeah.
I mean, like, I
Yeah.
think that the systems are really, it's so true. When you see where you're going, then you have to be ahead slightly in building the systems that you can grow into, and then you rebuild them and then you rebuild them. It's like, I remember back early in Actors Fast Track, I would say, we have to build operating procedures. We have to build operating procedures. And like, really, we were building them. Right. But now there's so many of them. And now I'm like, okay, how can we even get more clarified? Right. And then it becomes really fun because you and I like both like that. Right. It becomes like fun, like, oh, how can I organize it?
This is so true. And the whole time you're kind of sitting in this space of imposter syndrome because you don't have all the answers. You just don't, and you can't. And,
Yeah.
I'm so lucky that I came into the producing kind of post COVID because I didn't learn the old way. So I didn't need to know like how that was done because this is a brand new world that we're diving into.
Yes, it
So
is.
it's almost like people are held back if they hang on to the old. Well, I didn't have the old. So I just came and
Preach,
went,
preach.
let's
They
just,
are listen, it's changing so fast that like I meet people that are like, well, I know I'm just gonna wait till I get a good age. And I'm like, oh my God, what century are you living in at this point? Right? Like there's
don't
so
wait.
much going on. So speaking of that, let's talk about you making money doing vertical content as an actress.
Okay. So this was
Yeah.
a little bit of an accident. I was on the very first, what was called a Mobisode at the time. And this is the company that's now Real Shorts, and Crazy Maple is the production company behind it. But at the time, it had a completely different name. It was Real Shorts, but nobody knew what it was. So we walked in, I did it kind of as a favor for a friend, and all of the cameras were turned like sideways. They were like turned vertically as if they were a phone, and they were still massive cameras. And it was like the Wild Wild West. We had no idea what was happening. People were running around. Well, that got hundreds of millions of views. And so it was kind of like that Quibi. And if you are interested, I have an entire YouTube channel on this very subject. It's called The World of Vertical TV. And I shoot it vertically. It's on YouTube. It's in the YouTube Shorts. And I talk to everyone about what's happening. And then I bring in directors, producers, Academy actors, interviewing them to find out, casting directors to find out what their take is on this vertical TV. So I just kind of happened upon it. And then the next thing you knew, I was in. And so I've now done maybe 13. I won't do more than one a month because they take a lot of energy. You have to have incredible memorization skills, and there are incredible actors doing this work. Now, the content is not always great because often it's these kind of mini drama, hyper, CEO. There's always a yuppie
Soap operas.
kid,
There's soap
soap
operas.
operas. They're soap operas, but they are moving into something very different. And I just did one for Pocket FM, and it was really amazing. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done because it wasn't like you were doing dialogue. You had to know the narrative and where to come in. So I love to stay on top of my game. And as much as I'm producing, I don't, and never say never, but at this point, I don't put myself in my own productions because it's a lot when I'm, carrying the weight of the entire production. But I do act. Half of my work is acting and half of my work is producing. They're just two different hats and two different worlds I live in. And the vertical is one that I'll do like one vertical a month. But if you want to know how to get in, how to, get your script on there, all of these things, my last episode was a 5-part series with a director that is, she was on one of the ones that I did, that one of the recent verticals, and she's going to tell you everything there is to know about verticals, including the ones that are happening overseas. So I love it. It's fun. They got a formula. It's, great. You're not going to win an Academy Award, but you have fun and you get to work on your acting skills.
And you get paid.
And you get paid. I now get paid really well for that. So I, in the beginning, it didn't work that way because I was, just doing a day player. But now if you come in as a supporting lead, then you can make a really good salary. So you also, okay, that word discernment, when you're doing verticals, you need to be discerning. Okay, you've got to like the script. You've got to decide that this is really going to help you in some way move your career forward. And if it's just for me, it was like, wow, I get to stay in the game. And sometimes we would shoot 22 pages in one single scene. So without stopping, that's the wide. So I was like, wow, I'm going to have to really hone in on my skills here, and so that helped me a lot.
It totally changed you. It really helped you.
Really
Right?
helped me.
Yeah.
Valerie, you were so instrumental. The first one, I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? It was not written well.
No, I didn't know what vertical content was at this. And she's like, can you coach me on this? And I was like, holy shit, this is bad. It's written bad. I'm like, you're going to have to demand that some of this stuff was cut. Well, that can't happen. But it was stupid.
It was
stupid bad.
It was vampire and it was all these things. But that one it's the number one, believe it or not, it's the number one, I'm going to say, vertical on that particular app. There's so many apps that are out there, and that's how you view the content. But go on my YouTube channel, go under Kathryn Hollis Peters, look under the shorts, because that's where you're going to find them, and you'll find, I don't know, there's probably maybe 15 or 20, and every week I put up a new video.
That's so helpful.
We have another question.
Yeah.
And it's from Maggie, who you've already mentioned. And Maggie says, hi, Kathryn, have you thought about producing verticals?
I have, which is really why I went into them in the first place. So the vertical world is very hard to get into. I don't care what kind of actor you are. If you are a top actor and you haven't done vertical, once you're in, you're in. So you have to start somewhere. You have to get your foot in the door. And that's for casting directors. Really prominent casting directors cannot get in. Great actors that I know personally, far better than I am, cannot get in because they haven't done one yet. So the same thing is true with producing. If I am doing these regularly and I form a tribe of people that trust me, and yes, then I could go in because I know the protocol, I know how it works. But you've got to get in there because it's very different. They shoot generally with 2 or 3 cameras at once. It's just not your typical set that as a regular actor, you're used to working on. So you really have to know them. But that is definitely one of the things I'm actually working on with a team of players right now.
Wow, I love this. It also, what you're talking about, I'm your age too, I'm 62. And the reality of where we were when I started, when I got to New York, I had quarters in my pocket for payphones. There was no such thing as a cell phone, anywhere near my life. And I had a pager that my agents would text my pager and they would say like, call us now, and I'd run and find a payphone and make sure I had popped a quarter in and hope the payphone worked. All of that sounds ancient to any 20-year-old listening, right? But we're now in a completely different world where there is no excuse to say, oh, I can't get into the acting industry. I can't. The follow-up question is, do you own an iPhone? Do you have a cell phone? Do you have a Google phone? If you have anything that can self-record, you have a tool that will allow you to, on a professional level, represent yourself in the world of media. Like, that's the reality. If you can create a script, create a character, write something, write a short, the reality is that a lot of people are also looking at social media to cast you. Because if you've got a large enough following, then that's bankable proof to them that they can make money on you. It's different, and the consciousness around it is so different. And hearing you talk about it, like first, while you were talking, I was like looking you up, and I'm like, I want to watch this immediately. I want to watch what you created because it's so exciting.
Well, and it's funny because we as actors, producers, directors, we all go on IMDb, right? That's where we go, and that's what we look at. And when I look at my own IMDb, I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to scroll down to see the Nathan Fielder's rehearsal and some of the really great network things that I've been on because I have so many of these verticals. But let's face it, here's the deal. There's so much opportunity. There might be a lot of competition. And now we have the tools, like you were saying, James. It used to be so hard to figure out how to do it. It's not hard to figure out how to do it. So I also stay very abreast of what's happening in the world. I don't want to get left behind, even though I'm a little bit older. And, kids just know how to do this. They don't need instructions. I still need a little help, but it's great if you can embrace this new technology and this new way because it's happening. I mean, it's happening with or without us. So we just have to figure out how to use it to our greatest advantage.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's so crazy how we, in order to survive this change, it's almost like you have to be a content creator. You have to be on social media. You have to understand that you're in charge more than ever before. I did a whole rant this morning and, I did a whole rant, like I taught you guys into Otter, and then I put it into Chat GPT and I was like, what are my 10 mic drop statements? And Chat GPT was like, there you go,
It's crazy how we can, do so much more quickly, so much more efficiently too. That's what I find. I'm like, whoa, that's why I got to go play my singing bowls to bring me back down because I can in one day do what it used to take me 1 month to do. And you can do it with ease and grace if you center yourself and you do it, methodically. But I love what you're saying, Valerie. It is such I'm going to use the word privilege again, to be an actor in this day and age because we can create our own destiny. And we just need to figure out which way we want to go. If that's not working, pivot, try it over here. I would say your Instagram needs to look great. I get a lot of jobs off of my Instagram. Facebook, not so much. Facebook's your personal stuff. Like be very clear what you're, posting where. LinkedIn, that's my gravy for my business relationships, so higher level relationships.
And it also could be gravy for your acting business. I just want to say, not, because we teach actors that because that's where you guys are, producers, directors, and writers. You're on LinkedIn.
That's right. And Instagram is where people see me in motion. So they'll go, oh, user group content. That girl can do that. They see. So I get a lot of direct offers off, believe it or not, of Instagram. So I look at those two things if I want to show what I do on Instagram and keep that kind of my acting world. And then my Facebook is my personal world and my LinkedIn is my business world and growing that. So that's how I do it.
Where does TikTok fall in that?
I love that you brought up TikTok. So I had a TikTok moment and I don't even know. I think it was 100 million something views, something crazy. And let me tell you what the video was. I was on a red carpet and I do a lot of red carpets. And I had this built-in kind of bra thing. And so we call them cutlets, right? So the little plastic thing. I leaned over and it fell out. And I was like, can somebody pick that up? That went freaking viral. Okay, that video, which was hilarious because TikTok people want to be entertained and it's fun. And yes, you can do other things on TikTok, but that's what I used it for. And then I was like, okay, I got to stop the madness. Things are spinning out of control in every direction. So for me, I took a break with TikTok. So now if I went back on, guess what? Not that I have to start over, but I'm not going to have, the millions of views. So I think you have to be conscientious of what do you want? What are you using it for? How much can you put into it? And so, but yeah, TikTok to me is fun. I think it can be a moneymaker and you can do it just like YouTube. I mean, if you guys aren't exploring YouTube, think again because YouTube is going to be the answer. I mean, it just is surpassing everything. So
it is.
You really got to look at what you can do to monetize what you're doing on YouTube. And for me, it's all free. I do the world of vertical TV, but I'm going to go into other things that are just about to pop. So those are also going to be on there. And then eventually I can be an expert in that area. And then people want to, pay me. Right now, I'm just kind of giving it out for free.
Wow.
Isn't it fun? I mean, here's the thing. Every day I wake up and Valerie and James, I say, wonder what today's going to bring. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I just want to have an experience because that's when you're really living. And you never know where that experience is going to lead you.
You never do. Right? Like you never do. Right. And remember when Sherry Winkleman told that story about being made fun of by that guy, and then she sat down in a bar at Sundance next to this huge producer, and they became friendly. It's like so crazy, It's like, oh, he made me feel bad. Nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm producing Julianne Moore's movie. It's like, oh, okay. Thank you, universe. Or me with the cookie story. Same thing.
I've got a little story. I won't get
Uh-huh.
into it, but yesterday I was at a very, I'm just going to say extraordinary event because it was a high level event. It was women in entertainment. And at the very end of the event, I wanted to go, but somebody was like, oh, just stay for a few more minutes. So I stayed. And I just got back from my spiritual retreat. So I had so much work to do. But I found myself at a table with a Hallmark director who I'd been introduced to, who we're probably going to end up working with. And she was speaking to another woman who I thought was her friend. And so I kind of came up to the table and my friend started talking to the Hallmark director, and this other girl was kind of left there. So we just started talking, and I was just finding out what she was all about, who she was. Come to find out, and this wasn't offered in the beginning, she was one of the 6 people who started Amazon or worked with Amazon when it was that small and ended up being an Apple executive. And I'm having this conversation with this beautiful, articulate, incredible woman who was so kind and gentle and exchanged cards. And I'm thinking, what just happened in my world? Right. And A, I was led by intuition to stay. And B, I didn't try to maneuver my way to get
Yes.
I just sat there for a minute and
Yeah.
thought, well, this woman's nice, and I met showrunner after showrunner after showrunner and so many incredible people because I put myself out there. I was tired. Trust me, I didn't want to go. I was really resisting, but I did it and I centered myself. And when my little self said, you need to go, I said, oh, I can give it 5 more minutes. And that's when the goal happened.
That's great. It actually reminds me of there's a story in the business world about being in the lowest place, and I think of the Princess Bride when they're in the fire swamp, and then he's being tortured in the the underground cavern, and it's like that moment is the moment to stay in what you're doing, not to leave what you're doing, because we have to go through that place in order to come out in the air again. You stayed in that place of like, you know what? I'm going to stay through this. And you found the treasure of the moment, which was meeting people. Really
And not
beautiful.
trying to, wedge myself into what I thought was the better situation. Like I allowed
Yeah.
this other situation, which they were both great. I mean, I'm having coffee with the Hallmark director, and I've already sent my follow up to the other woman just to talk about, she was interested in one of my projects. So you just never know, guys. Just kind of like keep an open mind, just be positive, and know that you are going to get exactly what you put out there. So I'm really clear on that. Like attracts like.
Yep. Like it attracts like, yep.
And also people, you said she was a nice person. And not everybody in positions of power
Is a nice person.
are person, but also not every person in power is someone who's out there selling themselves loudly, right? And this is that thing of like you were being nice, like you were just being yourself. You were being kind and friendly. And I think people sometimes forget. We're so busy trying to sell ourselves, we forget that sometimes it's not about selling yourself. It's just about being kind and being friendly and being present to someone else.
Mhm.
That's actually the most beautiful thing we can do is to just be present to someone else.
It's so true. And some of my dearest friends are people that are in very high places, whether they're in casting or they're in producing, and they're my friends. I don't go to them and ask them for jobs. I just sit in a space of really embracing their friendship. Of course, if they had a right role for me, they would tell me, because they'd love to see me succeed too. So I just think it is important to just, yes, go out there, collect those people that you want to surround yourself with because you have no idea where they're going to take you. And then just allow the magic to happen. And it's not always the push. Sometimes it's just staying where you are and allowing it to unfold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have another question, a follow-up question from Maggie, and I don't want to skip it. Pertains to earlier topic of conversation, but Maggie asks, do you have a certain number of followers to get a YouTube channel? If so, just keep posting maybe your IG videos on YouTube.
I started my channel maybe a month and a half ago. I think I might have had a channel, but I didn't even know that I had it. So I started a new one. You don't need to have any number of followers. I did the shorts because I was very clear that's turned vertically. So if I'm going to do the world of vertical TV, I better, do a vertical. And so for that, you don't need a certain number of anything. I just set it up and then I said, what, I'm going to do this video and nobody needs to come. And I think my first video was like 300 people.
That's really good.
It's good. I think I have like 40 or something subscribers and I had 300. And then my most recent one, I think was 800. So
Yeah.
people are watching, but I just keep posting. It doesn't matter to me. If there's one person that gets something out of it, great. It will go where it needs to go. But yeah, I post, but I'm very clear on what I'm posting. I'm not just posting every day. It's strategic. It's like,
Yeah.
what do I have to bring to the table that people would be interested in?
Right.
That's what I want to put out there. So that's kind of what is my determining factor. And I
Right.
do mine about once a week, but if I don't have anything new to share, I don't just share something that's not of value. I definitely share something that will make sense.
Yeah.
Boy, do we need that in our modern world. We do. Like we need that. We need people to be asking the question, what can I share that is of value?
Yep. I listened to this Gary Vaynerchuk video where he talked about how the whole industry has changed. It used to be about how many followers you have and posting for your followers. Now it's about the conversation, the DMing, they come to you, right? It's like story marketing. And same with actors. It's like that whole conversation of what type you are. It's not about types. They're hiring you much more than ever before. So it's defining that, which I think is really interesting. It's happening. Everything is changing so fast that it's like there's a lot of confused people because it's like their agents telling them one thing and their agents probably functioning from an old school place because even they can't keep up. I mean, they have clients that are making a shit ton of money on YouTube and TikTok, but they're not getting any of that without their CAA, UTA, or WME. Right. So, it's not in the contract. Actors are making money and sometimes they're getting shitty agents that are stealing money from them. So, like the fact that we have to really pay attention now, and you talked about that, like we have to pay attention and and I remember when we took on the word discernment for the year.
Still my word. It's still my word. And also Valerie, because I laugh about it, but it is so important because otherwise I'm going to be in overwhelm. And that's not a place that I want to be.
Right.
So I have to limit, two things, what's going to serve me and what can I do for that person? And if those two things don't match, then maybe that it's not really the thing that's mine to do in that moment.
Yeah.
But I have to look at those two things because there are things that I do for people that may not serve me, and there may be things that I'm doing for others. You do what you do, but keep asking yourself, what is mine to do? Because there's a lot of stuff out there that may not be yours to do. And then I also, from producing, what is the end result? Where is this project going to land? Who's going to be watching it? What, which network is it going to be shown on? Is it going to be theatrical? Is it going to be streaming? Like I start there and I kind of do that with my acting too. Like, where am I going to land? Who's my audience? Who do I need to be today? I put on makeup for this. I know you're not seeing me, you're only hearing me, but it made me feel better about myself. But just before this, I did a self-tape for a feature film. First time I've done no makeup because I really got into who is this character? What do they need to be? And I just did it. And so, and I hadn't done that before. And I thought, but that's who they want to see. They want to see this raw, real person, not this made up Kathryn.
Yeah.
Millions. We can be whatever we need to be. Just be true to yourself. Most importantly, true to yourself.
That is so good. That is so good. Oh my God. Well, I mean, do we have any other questions? I mean, this was perfect.
It's been an absolute joy.
I know. I would like, we find that we like to stay at about an hour because that's what people like. So I just want to say thank you so much. I mean, we've been trying to get you on here forever and we know you're so busy and we have a few people we've been trying to get on here forever that they're like, oh, I'm producing another film or my film's going to Cannes or I'm blah, blah, blah. It's always like something. And we're so happy we got you. Thank you for being here. Is there anything you want to leave it? I mean, I think what you just said was great, but is there anything else that you want to leave us with?
Well, first of all, I am so grateful that we got to be in this space together today. Thank you so much for having me. It's always an honor and a privilege to be in your greatness. I love what you both are doing and helping actors and doing it from a space of, just what do people need? And I just want to say, like, try to live part of your life from that place because we know what we need, but
Yeah.
there's also a space for what other people need. And so I'm really, and again, a lot of this is coming because I just came back from my spiritual retreat where I grounded myself, slowed myself down. And what a perfect time to do a podcast. But I'm so grateful for the life that I live. And I am so excited to see where all of you go in your lives. And so let's just have fun while we're doing it.
Yeah, makes it so much better that way. Right. That's why I'm taking my dog with me today to move my mom. She'll cheer up and she'll be the person. She'll be the dog I said she's finally earning her keep now.
Oh,
She's expensive.
Haven't met the dog, but I have met your mom, who I adore.
I know. Oh, by the way, we have the same birthday, James, March 25th. And James is March too. And so you guys were born in the same year and the same month.
Wow,
that's awesome.
And then we were born on the same day, but a year apart.
Yeah.
Maggie also says, please thank you. She's saying, I am so lucky to have you as a producer.
Oh, I love you, Maggie. You allowed me to kind of get in there and do what I do and trusted me. And I'm so grateful to you. I appreciate you. And I appreciate everyone for taking the time to listen today. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, you guys have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.